will be saving someone's life, Lark. Volcano knelt by Mink to dress her up. The night was cold. It might be unpleasant, but you know, Sidar is doing it too. As she mentioned his name, her hand twitched and Mink's hat fell to the floor. Keeping her smile felt like trying to hold together a broken statue for as long as the guests who'd gifted it to you stayed over. But you hadn't any glue to help you. Mink bent down to pick up the hat and put it on her head. "Okay," she said. The Hirarians began to come for the children, going by the census. There was no way to postpone it, trick them, try to escape or hide somewhere. Not that there was anywhere to truly hide anymore. As they left with the first kidnapped group, all illusions of good intentions and cooperation were gone. They were enemies, and they were death to any appeals. And perhaps it was Volcano's folly to tell Horizon what she'd learned from Asteris, because though he recovered from his wound, he was no longer here. Unable to bear the thought that he had failed his son, he chose to leave for the sea. Volcano wanted to stop him. Gods knew she needed him now more than ever, but she couldn't do it. And perhaps she shouldn't. Forcing him to bear his pain for her sake was too selfish even now. The captain had made it clear. The deal was gone, and the children taken away would not return. Many Belenian believed now they never would have, and that it was nothing but another deception to make things easier for the Hirarians. Volcano said to Mink, "As you know, people are very, very sick, and you can help them. But I can't be there with you, okay?" "Why?" "Because it's a very complicated matter, and I'm not a specialist. Asteris will be there with you, though, and she's very nice." Even though Asteris couldn't operate Ocaris' device, she'd promised Volcano she'd be there with Mink all throughout the procedure. Volcano didn't trust either of them as far as she could throw them. But between waiting for the guards to call Mink's name and take her away forever, and the gods knew what to her, and giving this woman a chance, she had to pick the latter. They met with Asteris by Quarantine City, under the cover of night. Volcano couldn't take someone else following in her tracks right now. She was fumbling around, unsure of what she was doing. What if it was the wrong choice? She had tried to negotiate with Asteris to let her come with Mink, but it couldn't happen. The woman begged her to understand. For this kind of arrangement to work, Captain needed to see no disruptions. And so they left, and Volcano started her vigil. Throughout the entire process, she didn't move an inch from the barricade. She stood there like a statue, not caring to look away, sit down, or rest, even when a few hours have passed. Asteris was shaking. "I didn't know," she whispered to Volcano. "I didn't know any of this." She led Mink out from around the bend. The girl looked sick, so pale and lethargic she nearly tripped over her own foot as she tried to follow the woman. Volcano ran up to her and caught her in her arms. Her daughter was cold to the touch, What have you done to her? I don't know. He didn't let me go in there, Asteris said, and every word seemed to be a struggle. She was trying not to cry, but the sobs came anyway. He's doing something horrible to the children. And they'd have to come again and again. Volcano, I'm so sorry I didn't know. And if I knew, nothing would change. Nothing would change. What are you talking about? Asteris took a few deep breaths, trying to compose herself, and whatever she was about to say, Volcano realized she didn't want to hear. The blood isn't needed to cure the algae disease. It's needed to distill the healing stones. No. Volcano squeezed Mink to her chest, as she herself felt as if the blood had been drained out of her body. Healing stones. Without these conduit gems, there was no healing magic. They were the key to the entire field of magical medicine, to all the cures entire nations relied upon. The spectre of their inevitable deficiency had haunted the medics for years. In the last decade, they became the most coveted treasure in existence. And now, they knew their source. Who else knows? Volcano asked, barely audible. Are we the only ones? I don't know. I don't know anything. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Asteris mumbled out and ran. Volcano tried to shout after her, but the Hirarian didn't return. Mink was crying and asking to go home, and Volcano was crying with her. She didn't have it in her to keep the smile anymore, not even for her daughter. She could get up and try to get to the captain and ask him these questions, but what would that even change? Of course, others would find out if the Hirarians had. This was the kind of secret only a dead could hold. If even. Mommy, it hurt. I don't want to do it anymore. Please, promise. Okay, Lark. She did. Just as she would promise the same thing many times over the next few days. We'll never come back here again. And though, terrifyingly, she couldn't be sure of it at that moment, in the end, she'd have been telling the truth. After the end. Dawn finds Volcano still drifting on the dinghy. It's been hours, but her muscles refused to make a single move. She thought the night would never end. For what reason had the sun to come up anymore? Yet it does, so persistent in its routine, so cruel. It reminds her that the world still exists, and that she exists within it. She tries to push away the thoughts starting to creep in, tries to return back to the state of nothingness, void of notions and feelings, but she can't. The morning glow slithers across the waves, reflecting the blinding light, and demands she awakens. She means to only move one arm. For what purpose she doesn't yet know. But even that little move sends a jolt throughout her entire being. She gasps for air, Her stomach churns. She's still here. Why is she still here? The sea is calling for her. She grasps the sides of the dinghy as she curls up, having trouble breathing. Each breath sends another wave of nausea. Her mouth waters with the sour bitterness, her throat clenches, muscles tense in preparation. She pulls herself up to sit and leans out of the boat to retch. The instant she looks down, the flashbacks of the night assault her mind. The sight of Mink disappearing underneath the surface. Volcano straightens up, nearly choking as she stops at the last second. She can't mar the water where she'd buried her child. She lets go in the boat. The acerbic stench fills her nostrils. Her hands go numb, clenched on the dinghy's sides. The unpleasant warmth spills over her legs and drips down, and her body contorts again and again with each desperate breath. And in the midst of this horrid spiral, another image returns to haunt her. The small body floating by their boat. A chilling thought brings relief in the spasms as her mind leaves its daze. How or why she was capable of this realization right now she'll never know. But she cannot join Mink in the depths just yet. In the distance, the Hirarian ships are preparing to return to the port for the morning change of personnel. They can't find the body. If they realize that Belenian have taken to drowning their children, they will take them at once and none will be saved. The Riffian Sea rarely returned those given to its depths, and Belenian believed that when it happened, it was a sign that the dead came back for one final goodbye. But this is not a time for superstition or legends. They must be more careful. She must tell everyone to weigh the children down if they make the call, or else it might be too late for others to do it when they are ready. She can see the body washed up on the beach. From the distance it could be taken for a log or a rock, but any trace of suspicion is a risk. She begins to paddle through the sea and the waves help her get to the shore. She stumbles out onto the beach and trips over her torn-up gown. Her body is refusing to work with her, rebelling against what she must do, but she forces herself to go on and she nears the small boy lying dead in the sand. She must hide him. She must crouch, pick him up, and hide him. But she recognizes him. His name was String. He was one of Mink's friends. Once he was a guest in Volcano's house. She tries to crouch, but her knees won't bend. Her arms won't reach out to feel the lifeless child. Volcano wants to scream, but she knows she cannot, so she bites into her forearm until blood draws. She forces herself to kneel. She must. The second her shins hit the ground, a wave of heat engulfs the beach. Blinding light spills over the sand, glimmering like a million embers dying in a fire. String's body darkens. Fiery patterns form on his skin as if his veins fill with lava. Volcano blinks, and he's gone. Turned to ash and blown away by the hot wind. She turns to the sea and the water itself stands aflame. She feels awake, but it must be a dream. Though the air seems still now, the heat radiating from the sea pulsates with waves, blowing Volcano's hair back, drying her gown. And then the flames converge, taking on the shape of a woman made entirely of fire, with nary a human feature on her face. Volcano, she says. The voice is so soft it brings attention to the sudden, complete silence around them. Nothing moves, not even the blade of grass resting on the water. The time itself stills in the presence of this being. An instinct urges Volcano to flinch away from the blazing hand, but she fears to anger the being. Her skin burns hot, tittering on the verge of agonizing pain, yet not reaching it, even when her chin rests in the woman's palm. A mortal man once taught me something curious about death, she says. It's the pinnacle of sacrifice to give one's life for a stranger, but it's no less romanticized to die for someone you love. Yet when you ask those who are loved so, whether they'd rather live at that cost, or pay the price themselves instead, few ever choose the former. Which is the ultimate sacrifice then? To live or to remain? She asks. Yours is the love that lets you take the life you'd die for in a heartbeat. I was a mother once too. The woman moves her hand to Volcano's own. My children walked on this very sand, but I didn't understand the bond between us then. I abandoned them and they perished. What a loss. Close your eyes, Volcano. It's not a request, but a command Volcano can't disobey. Strangely, she can't see the glow of the blazing sea piercing through her eyelids. Only darkness. And in it, one by one, countless flames spark to life, close, far. Each flame you see is alive near you, the being says. Your kind. The strangers. The history will not repeat itself on the wreath. How uninspired would that be? Here is the power to snuff any and all of these flames. At your will. Take one. Volcano means to protest, but her words fade as the fire guides her hand to the nearest flame. A foreign soul, she can sense it. Her fingers bend, trapping the flame in the palm of her hand. It wiggles as it suffocates within. Volcano's eyes shoot open. She watches a Hirarian sailor fall to the ground. The man reaches up as if the air could hold him, but the life is leaving him. He's too far for Volcano to see his eyes, yet she knows they are fading. She opens her palm. The fire permits it now. The power is yours, the being says. No debt to repay, no favor owed. Use it as you will. Snuff their lives one by one, or incinerate them at once. Raise the land, or turn the water their ships sail on into steam that melts their skins. There is no evil in righteous fury. Don't forget that. Volcano turns away from the god and looks once more at the living fire. And finally she finds the courage to ask, "Who are you?" She can't see the smile on the featureless face, but she hears it in the woman's voice as she responds. You know, you just don't believe it yet. One day you shall, but there is no rush. I can use this power to save us? Save you, destroy you, whatever you desire. But I have... She can't say it, no matter how hard she tries. Don't think it's too late, Volcano, don't think you should have waited. Your daughter's death was the catalyst. It gave birth to our bond. But I don't... Death is final. Were it not, it would have no purpose. Nothing can exist without a purpose. Volcano's eyelids fall down, revealing once more the sparkling darkness. The guard's flame is still burning small, like a dying lamp yearning for fuel. He will live, if Volcano allows it. A cold breeze engulfs her skin, but it doesn't bring relief. It brings an unpleasant shudder. When she opens her eyes, the world is back to normal. Chilling.